offensively, but there's so many other elements to the game. Obviously, you got to score to win hockey games, and that's awesome. But there's a lot of guys that compete in other areas and do all the right things. So, and they're not doing it alone. If you're talking about Kevin and Kirill, they're not doing it alone. You need help out there, and you need your teammates, and you need a team to help in that area.
Bravo, Declan, because that was I predicted to you last night that we would find that very soundbite. Did I not? I sent you a text before that game was done. I said, I want you to find the Dean Evison soundbite where he defers to, you don't understand what everyone else does. And yeah, we got two play. Okay, let's cut through the crap. You know what? In fact, we're going to help Dean out here.
Okay. Because
we are going to cut through all the BS from an 8-3 win against the Avs last night here on Judd's Hockey Show. Zolgad and Declan Goff, executive producing and co-hosting as always. We're going to cut through all the crap and get right to the point, okay? I've got one goal in particular of the 8 that the Wild scored last night that I want to run past you as being the difference in the game and the difference in this Wild team compared to previous teams, okay?
Okay.
So Dino in his postgame was not really forthcoming about the second period again.
Oh, yeah.
Which was not a good period.
Yeah.
The Avs, when they turn it on, they are flat out better than you, okay? In an 8-3 loss, they're better than you when they want to be. They certainly got suspect goaltending last night, and there were some problems. But the goal I want to give you is it's the second period, and the Avs are dominating, and you are waiting. They score back-to-back goals, Burakovsky and Mikko Rantanen, and it's now 4-3. And you are waiting for the tying goal. Like, it's coming. The Avs are setting up in the slot, basically getting shots off. Cam Talbot's making some nice saves again. But you are waiting for the 4-4 goal.
The Avalanche, if you will.
Yeah.
You're waiting for the Avalanche, if you will.
Very, very good. Very good. Yes, you are. Because it's already started going downhill. And the Wild gets a power play. And it was actually very good last night. 4 power play goals. It was a great night for the power play.
Where's that been?
But it's not the power play I want to talk about. As you wait for the Avs to score the tying goal and then subsequently the go-ahead goal, Kirill Kaprizov gets the puck. And I want to talk about this goal. He gets the puck in the slot. And he has a guy basically right on him. And I don't think he can see the goaltender or the net very well because the coverage on him is so tight and so close.
Yeah.
And on replay, if you go back and watch it, he gets a shot off that, number one, there's no room to shoot, and yet he gets this snapshot off that looks like a slap shot because it's still such a good shot. And it beats Grubauer, who did not play well, and it's now 5-3, and the game is done. So Dean Evison, and I haven't even broached the subject of the hat trick by Kevin Fiala. Dean Evison can talk all he wants about everyone's doing it, everyone's working hard. I like this Wild team too, Dean. But last night was about one thing. Last night was about your star players. And let's not lose sight of that. Let's not fall in love with we got to credit a fourth line played great. Okay, the fourth line did play well. Love the fourth line. Sorry, this game was about Kaprizov and Fiala. And even though Fiala had the 3 goals, I really think it was about Kirill because that goal to me took the Avs and said, not tonight.
Right. How long?
The floor is yours.
Thank you. How long and how much have we been saying basically since the preseason when we were trying to figure out who this team can be? We knew they were going to be a decent team. We knew they were going to possibly flirt with one of the 4 playoff spots. We certainly did not think that 75% through the season that they would be comfortably sitting in third place. The Blues are a mess. The Coyotes lost again last night. I mean, it's basically almost in cement at this point that the Wild are going to finish third place in this division. And you've had phenomenal play from Fiala. The goaltending is fixed, but Kirill Kaprizov makes everything happen. That's why I keep saying Batman and Robin, because without Batman, there's just Robin. And Robin can't fight the crime on his own, Judd. So he makes everything go. He is the motor. what he does in a phone booth, as you like to say, even though some people don't understand. Can you not, all you're trying to say here, and let me understand if I have the right interpretation of what he does in a phone booth. What he does in a very tight area of work, right?
Yes.
A lot of people were like, "What's a phone booth?" I saw you getting some tweets last night.
I
what's
think
a phone booth?
I think those were jokes, but yes, he can operate. He can operate like most people do with their arms extended, with his arms basically up against his body.
Correct.
Which is a very difficult thing to do.
So what he's able to bring, and then what Fiala supplements, and then I'm not saying the rest of the team doesn't matter because there's holes in this team. We've pointed out other holes in this team.
Absolutely.
But
let's talk about what matters the most.
And it's Kirill Kaprizov and
Yes.
Kevin Fiala. The words I gave you preseason, I think, was if they're going to be relevant this year, the Wild, they'll be dragged into relevancy by Kirill Kaprizov and Kevin Fiala. That prophecy, that hypothesis, whatever you want to call it, has come true. And it's phenomenal watching them. I was in that second period too when things were going around. I tweeted out, this is the worst recipe to try to win. You're going into a track meet, which is the exact kind of game you and I have also said that if you want to get in a track meet with the Avs, you'll lose probably 9 out of 10 times. You might steal one, but you're going to lose 9 out of 10 times.
Yes.
The penalties were absurd last night on both sides. That being said, the Wild actually capitalized on their power play opportunities. So 19 shots on goal for the Wild last night, capitalizing on the power play, stellar goaltending again from Talbot, and Fiala and Kaprizov being the main motor and main reason you absolutely dominated that game. Absolutely dominated.
That's exactly right. And they set the tone. They set the tone. And Fiala, I think, shows you. So when Fiala gets going, here's my theory about him. When he gets going, Dex, and he will get going at times. It will certainly not be an every game basis. But when he is really on, he could probably do pretty damn well with line mates that are okay, not great. Now, I still want him to have a center who's really good. Like, I think it would be great fun. Kaprizov would be phenomenal, but to go back to what we've discussed before on this show, he can create for himself. Fiala can at times, but cannot consistently.
Yeah.
And I think that's the source. I think that's the source of his frustration. Now, what Evason said about in the postgame last night about Kevin, and they go back to their time together in Milwaukee when Dean was coaching Kevin for Nashville's AHL team.
Yep.
From what Dean said about Kevin after last night's game, it sounds like there was a talk there because he talked about him working harder in all zones. Now, I still think that Kevin, I would not rip him one bit. I think he's worked hard, but it was pretty obvious from Evason's comments that he wants more still, and he got it last night. But when he is on, he is a star player. I don't think he's a superstar, but he is a star player.
Correct.
And Kaprizov is a superstar. And when you can have a night against the Avs where our guy Victor Rask gets 3 assists, other people are doing things right too.
Yeah. Fiala last night was, again, just quietly, very, very productive. And he had the hat trick, so I'm not trying to say it was quiet because you score a hat trick. It's pretty notable. It's a pretty notable thing, right?
First, I was shocked.
Me too.
First of his career, I would have thought he had 1 or 2.
I would have thght we had one in Nashville at this point.
Yeah, just because of his play.
Yeah, and even in his last, I believe, 7 games he has points in. He was quiet in the mid part of March. He went 5-6 games without a single point, and he's kind of like this sometimes. Last 7 games, 11 points, but he's shooting the puck. He's scoring goals. He's creating. There was I believe it was his second goal. You want to talk about a phone booth? Same thing. There's people dragged all over him.
I saw
it, and he found a corner.
Yep.
Every goal he scored was an unbelievable highlight reel goal. The first one on the power play from the top of the point. I mean, my God, that wasn't a throw. That wasn't, in my opinion, that wasn't a throw puck on. Maybe get a tip. Maybe get a weird. No, that was I know where the corner is, and I'm going to shoot it right now.
Grubauer glove side. He struggled last night big time.
He was weak.
And they exposed that.
Yeah.
They exposed that.
And what I have already seen, and I texted you this last night, it was the take I want to deliver. And it's not a hot take, but it's a take I just really want to cement the point home. And it's Kirill Kaprizov and Kevin Fiala have already done and shown me enough to prove that they are already more impactful players than the previous group. That previous group being Nino, Zucker, Coyle, Granlund.
Agreed.
And I know that goes without saying.
Yep, agreed.
But I don't know how you can watch that game last night, come back and say that, well, we still need a couple more. We need a few more things. We need a center. This team needs a center. But what those two bring, elevates this team to a level on top of its goaltending too. I don't want to sell the goaltending short. Brings this team to a level that is already on a completely different stratosphere than the previous group.
You're 1,000%.
And I think people even want to say, because I try to bring sample size to the show. You love to tease me about and Phil about sample sizes. But I think there's the biggest problem when people use a sample size argument. You also have to talk about execution. Is the execution already there? Whether the sample size is small or not. And what I have seen from Fiala and Kaprizov in just this 35-game regular season, and if I want to add, Fiala's other 30 games last year when he was red hot, I can do that. And the final point, and I'm curious how this happens, because the Wild are going to the playoffs. Let's get it out there. The Wild are going to the playoffs. That's basically a foregone conclusion at this point. How do those guys perform in the playoffs? Because last year even, Kevin Fiala in those 4 games against Vancouver, 3 goals. The four dudes, the Coyle, Zucker, Nino, Granlund group. I want to read you out these playoff stats for them, and then we'll close and we can buffer here. Or we can go back and forth.
Okay.
Charlie Coyle's last 26 playoff games for the Wild, 4 goals.
Yep.
Jason Zucker's last 30 postseason games, 4 goals. Nito Niederreiter's last 16 playoff games for the Wild, 1 goal. 1. Granlund's last 26 playoff games for the Wild, 4 goals. I saw Kevin Fiala score 3 goals, albeit in a wacky situation, 3 goals, match that total in 4 games last year with the Vancouver series. And right now, I think he is now on the level where this is consistent. I'm not saying a hat trick. I'm saying with the play he's on right now in the regular season, he's going to score big-time goals.
Right.
Kirill Kaprizov might get slowed down a little bit, but he's still going to score points too and create things.
Yep.
I already know that these 2 dudes are going to drive the Wild to actual postseason success. And I'm so curious and happy to see them do this because this franchise has needed it. That's my rant.
That was a good rant. I mean, it's not a rant. It's
not a rant.
It's facts.
Yeah, it's a fact, yeah.
You're spitting facts, as the kids like to say. So on the Kaprizov-Fiala front in the playoffs, I worry more about Kevin because he gets frustrated and it doesn't always help him and he takes penalties. And I do think that the opponents in a 7-game series, when you are playing the same team and it's the only team that you scout at that time, they are going to do everything that they can to get the matchups, especially in their home games. So if they're playing, for instance, the Golden Knights in Vegas, they are going to do everything they can to get matchups against Fiala and Kaprizov's lines, although they'll be different probably.
Yep.
I worry more about Kevin being frustrated. I think Kirill is so, the good thing about Kirill, and I mean, there's just so many intangibles about this guy's game. Like Kevin is a very, he's a dynamic player at times, but he doesn't have the complete package that Kirill has. And the thing that I love about Kirill in the playoffs potentially is that man is so damn strong. Like, he goes into corners and comes out with pucks. He plays keep away when a guy is on him. And I'm not talking just skill. I'm talking literally his body. He uses his body. He's strong enough to keep the puck when guys are confronting him. And so I think that the top defensive line of the opponent is going to go against the line that Kaprizov is on. I think teams are going to try and frustrate Fiala, and I think it's potential. They potentially will. And then my question becomes, what are the Wild going to do, and what's Kevin going to do to get around that in order for him to have success? Now, again, if you get to the day where there is a center who is really good, and that guy is on the same line as Kevin Fiala, it's going to help Fiala a ton. That guy is not there yet, and I do not expect him to be there in the playoffs in 2021. So I do think I think Evason and Fiala and the Wild as a whole is going to have to guard against him being frustrated and doing something dumb and taking penalties. He took some bad penalties against the Canucks because the Canucks at times frustrated him, and you're going to have to guard against that. But as far as the conversation goes about Kaprizov and Fiala and what this team has now, in a perfect world, and this didn't happen, you would have added Parise and Suter to a team with Kaprizov because that's a Stanley Cup team then. Yes. That's the Stanley Cup team. What we didn't know on July 4th, 2012, in our excitement was you weren't adding Stanley Cup players. You were adding really good pieces to what could be a Stanley Cup team with the superstar. Like you in retrospect now, and this is complete hindsight, okay? So I'm never saying that I said this at the time because I didn't come close. But in retrospect now, you add Suter and Parise to a team with an Austin Matthews, to a team with a Capri, and then you're like, oh my God, here we go. We thought, and again, I want to be 1,000% clear. I'm not saying I said this back then because I didn't come close. We thought this is the formula. These are the guys. They weren't the guys.
The Granlund Coils need those guys.
The Kaprizov of the world. But I mean, Kaprizov is, I want to make something very clear now, because we've seen a pretty large sample size of Kaprizov in this league, and we know who he is now, I think. Which is, you know what? On a nightly basis, he's not going to score. But he's going to score a lot, and he's damn talented. I want to end any part of the conversation sort of like you did, going back farther. All right. Marian Gaborik was a very good player with a ton of skill. But he played for a coach who wanted more defensive responsibility, who thought it was his job because at that time, unlike Kaprizov, Gaborik was a young player. Jacques Lemaire thought it was his job to teach Gaborik, and this is fine, but how to play a complete game. There is no way anybody who watches the Wild now and then can say, well, yeah, I mean, Kaprizov is good, but there was Gaborik. Gaborik was really good, and I'm not degrading his play at all, but I am saying it is quite clear now that Kaprizov is the best player, the most talented player that the Wild has had in their 20-year history. And he is the type of player that this fan base deserves and that everyone who watches hockey in this state has been waiting for. It's not Gaborik. It's not whoever your favorite player who got traded was. Kirill Kaprizov is the player we deserve.
Yes. He is already the best player the Wild have ever had. Yeah. I will go. I have no problem saying that.
I don't think it's... I
don't think it's particularly close.
Well, if Gaborik was allowed to turn it loose offensively, we might have a discussion.
Sure.
But he wasn't, so we don't.
And by the way, Gaborik, and to the lesser extent, the core group that we were just talking about, those guys are still a part of Wild history. I'm not trying to shortchange what they accomplished because they were productive.
Go
and
ahead
and some productive players.
Retired number one.
Niederreiter's Game 7 goal. There are moments and there are situations where they're part of Wild lore. They're for sure. But when you look at the other rookies, that have produced on the level that Kaprizov is, it was Gaborik with 18 goals in an 82-game season, Pascal Dupuis, okay, and then I believe fourth was Justin Fontaine. I saw a graphic go out yesterday. Those are your four most prolific rookie players. And no, if Kirill was maybe a step down for this and he started like Panarin came in nice, but Panarin really developed his game as years went on. If this is Kirill Kaprizov, and I know he's older, so he's experienced a little bit more. He spent a lot of time in the KHL. What's the next level? I say that as in like with excitement. What is the next level? Because if this is the floor of what the expectations are, there is still a ceiling that he hasn't hit. And I knew who Gaborik was. Even you knew who Granlund was. You knew pretty damn quick who they were. I think with Kirill, you know already that if this is the production that you can expect on a night-in, night-out basis, where is the glass ceiling that he can also break?
And Granlund flashed. He did nothing more than flash. He never consistently brought it like this guy does. And this guy, again, his skill set is so special. And please stop talking about his age, okay? I don't give a crap if he wins the Calder Trophy or he doesn't. He is a superstar. I don't want to hear about his age. I don't care. It's helped him develop. But I'm now seeing, and it's not from inside the state. It's not Wild fans. It's outside. But, he's not a rookie. He shouldn't be. I don't give a crap what you want to call him. He's a superstar. That's all that matters. We now get to watch on a nightly basis a superstar player. So complain all you want about it. You know what? Give him Rookie of the Year. I don't care. Throw it in the river. This guy is a superstar. We have waited 20 years. These guys don't come around. And let me remind you, the last time that we had a real superstar who was unleashed on this league, his name was Mike Modano, and his damn team up and moved to Dallas. We deserve this. I deserve this. I do. We all do.
Yeah.
This is, for all the crap, and I mean, the Wild has done, and I respect them, but they have done from day one the greatest job of marketing, and we are the state of hockey, and we are this, and we are that. You made a run to the conference finals because you were incredibly well coached by a guy that liked to trap, which was a boring style. We missed a season because of a lockout. And then we were fed a steady diet of guys who were okay but not great. And as cool as the Suter-Parise thing was, again, now to go back in retrospect, that put you in the playoffs. It didn't put you on a Stanley Cup track. This is the type of player, this is the best player turned loose in this state since Modano, and we lost him, okay? So I'm going to revel in watching this guy play. And I'm tired of anybody who downplays it, including the coach. Like, just get up to the podium and say, like, do you really think anyone in that room is going to say, Dino, come here. Come here. I want to talk to you. Hold on a second. It's Nico Sturm here. I've been sold a little short. You're always talking about Kaprizov. No, everyone in that room knows he's a super. Do you think in Pittsburgh they said, oh, this 87, why are you always talking about him? I'm a veteran here. And you know what the great thing is? This room is good enough now. I think they've cleared out the crap from the guys who would have complained. But anyway, what we saw last night was not a complete game again. It wasn't. The second period was not great. But when one guy can grab that game like he did by the neck and do what he did to that game, you tell me the last roster that you had a wild player who you said, you know what, Nino Niederreiter's going to really turn this game around. You can't do it.
No, I already know. And if that core group and if that last group, their ceiling was a semifinal. That was their ceiling. They won 2 playoff series. That's all they did. People, that's all they did.
They didn't get past the second round.
They never got past the second round. They never got past Game 6 of the second round. It'd be one thing if you knocked on the door, you got unlucky. Game 7s are toss-ups. You know, I can even hear that argument. But you never got past Game 6.
Yep.
And I already know that the tools are in place. I know I went on my rant there earlier, but there are still things missing. This league is still very deep. I'm not saying that just because they beat Colorado 8-3 last night that they're gonna now they have Colorado's number. No, Colorado still has you. Colorado still has you by the you know what.
They got to get a goal. They've got to get a backup goaltender.
Yep, they do.
I
And
mean,
as you know, I
what they're doing is dumb.
I watch my opposing broadcasts. So I watched Altitude Sports last night.
Yes.
And there are controversial Wild Avalanche fans out there who love to attack the Wild fans vice versa. But both these fans honestly have a good rivalry. That's healthy and normal. But sometimes a little bit, it's like, all right, guys, turn it back a little bit. I appreciated Altitude because they were also, they marveled in Kaprizov. They said the same thing you and I were saying. Like they said, Gaborik was a good player. Gaborik was very good, very skilled, very talented. He is on a completely different level than Marian Gaborik, and it's not close. And those guys have been watching Wild hockey for as long as we have, and they've only seen Kirill Kaprizov 8 times. And you can come to that assumption. It's okay to also honor your past and say that those players from past Wild years were a big part of it, and it's also okay to say Kirill Kaprizov is better than them.
Yeah.
It's okay to say that.
And I'm with you. Nobody's guaranteeing playoff success. They're going to the playoffs, but no one's guaranteeing success. But I am also not going to sit here and rain on the parade that is a superstar player. To me, it's simple. And if the Avs do not get a backup goaltender who can play, they're crazy.
They're in trouble.
Grubauer last night, and I don't even blame him. He plays every game now, and he looked like a guy, right? Like he looked like a guy last night who was absolutely tuckered.
Yeah.
This is why I will stand with this. Well, I mean, it's true across the board, but especially true this season. You have to have 2 goaltenders. Kapa's got to play again, too.
Yeah. I was surprised he didn't get the nod yesterday. I was.
Cam's played great, but you can't play him right now. I mean, the playoffs are going to come around, Dex, and it's going to get more crazy.
Yep.
So anyway.
Yeah, it was an impressive performance. Deadline's coming up. Bill Guerin has already mastered coach speak. I know you and I were talking about that, yes, or executive speak, I should say.
Yeah, we're all in, but I don't know I'm going to do anything.
No, basically,
no, it's fine.
And that's fine. I think Bill will listen to the right ideas. Yeah, I don't see him mortgaging the farm for Jack Eichel, and the Islanders trade yesterday for Palmieri and Zajac.
But they're closer.
They're closer, and they gave up 1 first-round pick, and New Jersey's taking on half of those 2 players' salaries.
And they're both expiring contracts.
So the trades that happen this year are going to be a little wacky. They're going to be kind of like that. I don't see a team giving up a ton for if Eichel gets traded, it's this summer. Like Eichel's not going to get traded. I'd be surprised.
I think Taylor Hall gets traded.
Sure.
I think a few guys like that before Monday's deadline get traded. I also think that to your point, you're going to see more trades like we saw with the Devils and Islanders. We're going to see that more with teams that are almost there to pop.
Right.
And the Wild's not there, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But they got a damn superstar, and it makes me very happy.
Yeah. I like I said, last closing point, I think they will kick a tire and try to get some type of center. I don't think it's going to be a game-breaking center, but I do think they will try.
Outstanding stuff. We are done. Back soon, I'm sure. Declan?
Pass, shoot, score.